If you're watching this video, I'm just going to assume you're probably wasting more time than you should be when you're studying. And this video is the right place for you. My name's Jamie. I'm here to boost your grades. I'm just going to show you a quick technique you can incorporate straight away into your study. It's called the Pomodoro Technique. If you haven't already done this, you'll probably get about a week's worth of work done in 2 hours. So let's get into it. I won't waste your time. First thing I'm going to go through is what this technique actually is. First, I'd like to say that this technique was developed in Italy in the 1980s, but it's kind of besides the point right now. What I want to focus on is how to actually use this. So you're going to take your phone or your stopwatch, your kitchen timer, you're going to take maybe your watch on your wrist, whatever you can that you can time something on for a certain amount of time. And you're going to set 25 minutes. Now, during those 25 minutes, what I want you to do is just work. Focus on your study. So you could be doing a maths question. You could be revising over flashcards. You're just going to study for those 25 minutes, but you're not going to check your phone. You're not going to look out the window. You're not going to talk to anyone. You're just going to study for 25 minutes. That's all you're going to do. No excuses, just do the work. And when that timer's up, you're going to set another timer for 5 minutes, and then for 5 minutes, you're going to rest. And again, just like working, I'd advise you to rest and only rest in this case. Don't check your phone. Don't look out the window. Just rest calmly for 5 minutes. I have a few tips on how to rest effectively, but I'll get into that later in the video. So you can check your phone here if you want. Most of you probably will, but let's be real, we both know that's just an excuse to distract yourself. You just want an excuse to check your phone to get a quick dopamine hit. So I'd advise you not to do that. You'll probably break your focus, and realistically, more than likely, you won't even start studying again. So I'd advise you to not check your phone. Just use the 5 minutes as a study break and take it in as much as you can. You're going to alternate that 25 on, 25 minutes on, 20 or 5 minutes off kind of alternation right there. And after four, as they're called Pomodoros, or after 4 rounds, or after 4 ons and offs, you're going to take a longer break or even just finish for the day. If you've never tried this before, I'm going to be honest, it's quite game changing. If you've never actively studied like this, if you've never timed your study, if you've never studied smart or efficiently, if you've always just read the book, this is going to really change how you study. Okay, well, I'm going to tell you why now. I'm not just going to give you the technique, I'm going to tell you why. And before I tell you why, I've actually got a quick visual cue on screen. We're going to say green means go for 25 minutes, red means stop for 5 minutes. Think about it like traffic lights, and you're going to go through four sets of traffic lights. You're going to repeat 4 times. So why you would do this is number one, it increases your focus, and it also allows you to reward yourself with breaks for studying. So it means that you're getting a positive feedback loop going. The same way you give your dog a treat whenever they sit down. You know what I'm saying? So you're going to give yourself a positive feedback loop here. When you manage to study for 25 minutes straight, you say that you earn a rest. You deserve a break. You've earned this for yourself. So take your 5 minute break. It also helps you manage your time a bit more effectively, and it's also efficient in getting lots of work done in a really short period of time. Okay? It's also easier to overcome procrastination when all you have to do is 25 minutes, which is very true. I'm sure you can imagine watching videos like this, or scrolling TikTok, scrolling Instagram, watching Netflix. A lot of these things, if you did them for 25 minutes, they probably feel like they're going to fly in. They probably feel like no time at all. So if you can do that for 25 minutes, you have absolutely no excuse to not study for 25 minutes as well. And also the longer rests will help prevent burnout. Even if, as I said earlier on, you're new to this, your studying is lacking, you want to improve it, it's going to prevent burnout if you take rests every so often, so that you're not just putting all of this information into your head and not taking time to process or just calm down and debrief. Okay, so I'm going to give you a bit more detail on how to use this, and I'm going to do that with a specific example now. So, number one, I want you to plan what you're actually going to study. I don't want you to just sit there and say, I'm going to do maths today, or I'm going to revise history, or I'm going to look at some of my flashcards. No, don't be so vague. Be specific. If you study aimlessly, you're not going to reach your goal. It's like trying to reach a destination without having a direction. You're not going to get there. So pick your direction, pick your destination, and just go for it. Part number two is to break it down into smaller subtopics, because you're going to be repeating the Pomodoros, as I said earlier on. You're going to repeat these on and off rounds. So you can't just pick one subtopic for 4 rounds. Well, you can if you wish, but usually it's better to say, maybe I'll do algebra exam questions in my first round. I'll do trigonometry exam questions in my second round. Or you can do algebra for all 4 rounds. I'm going to show you some examples of exactly what I'm talking about in the next section, but for now, I want to continue on this. Step number three is set your timer and alternate, as I said previously. And for bonus point, you can use interleaving here. Interleaving is a study technique that I'm going to get into in a future video, but I'm going to cover a little bit on it today as well. So I'm going to do that with an example that I have here. So I've got two examples. The first example is the interleaved example, and the second example is the more consistent, thorough example. So example number one here, for Pomodoro number one, we're going to revise some worked examples for algebra. So we're going to look at our maths textbook. We're going to see some worked examples for algebra. We're going to work through those. Step number two is to actually completely change your train of thought. You're going to revise some flashcards for your oral exam. So if you're doing your Leaving Cert in Ireland, which is what we tend to focus on this channel, you can revise for your Irish oral or your Spanish oral or your French oral. Number three, you're going to go back to algebra, and this time you're going to do your own exam questions. But then in the fourth Pomodoro, you're going to start practicing your Irish oral exam. So in the first two Pomodoros, it's you're taking information in, and then in the last two Pomodoros, you're putting that information out. This is an effective way to study, and studies have shown that this does work effectively. But some people, including myself, would probably prefer, instead of doing A, B, to just do A, B. So do A's together and B's together. In this case, do maths together and then do your language together as well. So number one is going to be revise the worked examples for algebra. So taking in information, and then you're going to put your own output out for number two, the algebra exam questions. The same thing is going to happen for number three. You're going to take some information in by revising the flashcards. Then you're going to put that information out in your own output in number four by reciting the parts of your oral that you have scripted. So what I really want to say here is this part is completely up to you. It's your own discretion. If you want to do A, B, go for it. If you prefer A, B like myself, do that as well. It's completely up to you, whatever helps you study better. Okay, well, that's really my main coverage on the Pomodoro technique, but I've got some bonus tips as promised at the end here. So here are my bonus tips. You can pause and read, or you can just listen to me explain them. I want to first of all say that studies show that movement or like practicing a skill / instrument, maybe even doing keepy uppies with a football, say you're doing push-ups, say you're doing some squats, say you're walking around your house, whatever you're doing, right? It's a much more effective way to use study breaks than being on your phone. Because while you're doing that, you can actually think about what you've been studying. And I'll talk more about that in a second. But you can think and kind of rehearse the material in your head. You can also just rest and completely declutter. You can completely rest and then debrief and relax and not think about anything too much. But either way, that movement is going to have blood flowing around your body, which means more blood flowing to your brain, which means more thinking, more memory, better results. And that's what we're aiming for here, better results. So that includes watching videos like this. You're probably not being as productive as you think you are, even right now. And you know I'm going to be honest with you when I'm telling you that, because I want you to watch the video. I want this to get views. But to be dead honest, you could be more productive. You could actually be studying right now. So what I want to say about that is you might want to check your phone, you might want to watch a video, you might want to scroll, but it's probably doing you more harm than good. You're probably breaking your focus. And let's be real, it's probably just an excuse to actually check your phone. Okay, it is an excuse. Let's be real about it. You can also change your timing though. You can bring it up to 30-minute intervals instead of 25 minutes, 40, even 50 minutes and beyond. Nowadays, I usually do 60 to 90-minute sessions, and I don't even do the rest time the same way you would on the Pomodoro technique. There are different kind of methods for what's called flow and deep work, but I'll get into those in a later video. The Pomodoro technique is more of a beginner style technique for when you need to quickly increase how well you're studying and how efficiently you're studying, but you haven't quite done that yet. Okay, another thing to do on your breaks is to consciously rethink about what you studied, like as I said earlier on, and try to run it through or explain it to someone else. Now, you don't have to actually explain it to a real person. You can explain it to your future self or your past self or an imaginary person. You can explain it to a mirror, explain it to a wall. You can explain it to whoever you want in your head, okay? But teaching new information that you've just learned to people has a 90 to 95% retention rate, whereas reading textbook is only about 5 to 10%. So what I mean by retention rate is the percentage of information that you're actually going to keep in your brain from that learning technique. So on your break, if you can teach that information that you just learned to someone else, you'll probably retain about 90 to 95% of it. Whereas you'll only keep about 5 to 10% of that in your brain if you just read the textbook and then move on. If you're unmotivated, should I say, you can use a visual on-screen timer. You can go into YouTube, you can type in 25-minute timer. I'm pretty sure nowadays you can even type in Pomodoro 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off, and they'll actually come up with visual timers. So what I mean by that is you can actually visualize and see the screen in front of you of the 25 minutes on, the 5 minutes off, to know how much longer you have left in your work session or on your break session. So that can be effective for a lot of people who are not as motivated to study right now, or sometimes, it happens to all of us. We don't really feel like we want to study today. So sometimes that visual timer on screen just helps a little bit more. Once the session is done, you can just reflect on your performance. Think about the RPE you put in the gym, how hard you train in your sport. Just think about it like that. Think about how well you performed. Think about how well you were focused. What did you do on your breaks? Was that effective? Did you get distracted? Did you finish all of your work timings? These are the kind of things to think about so you can improve your performance for the next time. Aside from that, that's all I have to say about the Pomodoro technique today. It's a really effective technique you can use to boost your study. I hope it's helped everyone, and stay tuned for more.